from what we knew at the beginning of COVID to what we know today, what do we know about the vaccine today that we didn't know while we were all testing it in America, taking it? What have we learned now?
What do you mean testing it on America? There were tests before it was released.
9 months is not a long time to test.
No, but it was tested.
Yeah, but 9 months. The average is 30. The average is 5 to 10 years. I mean, 9 months is not enough.
Okay, so you have to
test.
No, you have to ask. Hold on. It was tested in trials. Okay. By the way, I'm not claiming to be the expert on all this. I read all the same things you have, but I'm a scientist, so I read it as a scientist. Okay.
In this video, Neil deGrasse Tyson exposes Patrick Bet-David's delusions and leaves him completely speechless. So right off the bat, Neil gets hit with that classic right-wing framing. We tested the vaccine on Americans, and honestly, from that point, you already know where PBD is going. It wasn't tested long enough, people didn't have a choice, or what about freedom, blah blah blah. But Neil just doesn't take the bait. He calmly unpacks the difference between calendar time and actual trial scale, explains how scientists interpret risk, and low-key just checks PBD's whole misunderstanding of how medical review boards even work. So make sure to watch till the end to see how Neil deGrasse Tyson exposes Patrick Bet-David's delusions and leaves him completely speechless.
There were trials. That's what the point of phase 1, 2, 3 trials are all about. They are tested enough to get data on how to then advise the larger population. Yes, it was tested. For you to say it wasn't tested is a gap between your awareness and understanding how things work and what actually happened. It was tested. If you want it to be tested on millions of people instead of thousands, you can put in for that. You can say, I don't want this unless it's millions. That's okay.
Totally fine with me.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
That's fine. So based on that, do you say, let's keep testing it while the virus keeps spreading? Okay? Right. So this is the contest between the information you have available to you at that moment and what's going on outside the lab. People are dying. Hospitals are becoming overloaded. So, do you say, we have good data on the 1,000, it's not yet at 1 million in case you wanted 1 million. Are you going to say, let's still do it let's wait another 6 months so we get another 1 million in here? Will you do that as a public health professional?
No, I would have said, allow the individual to still have a choice that's okay with 1,000 instead of a few million. Leave the person have the choice. Not force him to take it or else you're going to get out of the Marines, and you've been doing this for 14 years. Not force him to take it or else you have to quit your job as a nurse.
There's a public health
force versus choice.
There's a public health contract that you have signed implicitly as a citizen of a country where in part we depend on each other for health, our wealth, our security, and the like. And that contract is, in the best scientific evidence available at the time, if you do not get vaccinated, you will put other people in this organization at risk, and that organization does not want to take that risk. So you do not have this job anymore if you decline it. So with any public health decision, there has to be a consequence to you not participating in that social contract. Is it your job? In some cases it was. But no, we're not going to have the army bust into your home and force a needle into your shoulder. That's not going to happen.
So Neil just goes off here, and not in an aggressive way, but in a way that just kinda destroys PBD's whole point. He basically walks PBD through how vaccine trials actually work. Phase 1, 2, and 3 all done before release. And then he points out the obvious. When people are literally dying in packed hospitals, you don't get the luxury of waiting around for 1 million data points just because you're uncomfortable. You work with what's solid, systematically backed, and immediately available. That's what being responsible in a pandemic looks like. And PBD's counter here? It's just the vague libertarian fallback, just give people a choice. But come on, that's such a surface level take. Neil hits back hard with something people like PBD always ignore. Public health isn't just about you. You're in a community, a workplace, a unit. If your choices directly put others at risks, then yeah, there are consequences. That's not tyranny. That's literally how the military, healthcare, and public safety jobs have always worked. And just for the record, no one was forced at gunpoint. PBD's acting like job requirements equals government tyranny is just him trying to make personal discomfort sound like deep philosophy.
We pretty much did that.
Well, only put your job at risk, yes.
Yeah, 67% of Americans took to COVID. That's force. That's not a choice. That's a lot of force and coercing and pushing going on. But you can't go to the school unless you're vaccinated against mumps. I think that's bullshit.
That's a different country.
Yeah, but
okay, would you want a country?
No, America is supposed to be the one that offers the most freedom. That's what America's supposed to be.
Okay, so watch.
So for example, if you use that argument, somebody may say, well, freedom of choice. I want to choose what I want to do with the body. You're right.
What body?
If you want to get an abortion, it's your choice.
Your own body.
If you want to get an abortion, get an abortion. If I want to get the vaccine, I get to choose. So you can't force. If I can't force you to get an abortion, you shouldn't be able to force me to get
because it's not about you. It's about people you interact with, and that's the social contract of public health.
We don't even know if the vaccine worked or not at the time.
Yes, that's what the trials are, dude. That's why these trials. Are you missing data out there?
But let me ask you a question. Are we saying only one type of scientists are right?
No, we're saying that the system in place,
the 16,000 that signed that.
No. The system in place to test vaccines. Yeah. There's an entire system that's in place. That with review boards and all of this,
and the average
that's in place. Now you can say what you can say is, I have a better idea than all these review boards and all these agencies and the CDC. I have a better idea. Here's what you should do, and that would have made everything better. Okay, you can put forth that idea, but what I'm saying is, in a case where you can contaminate someone else, it's not about you. It's about the collective health.
You're assuming because somebody can take the vaccine, won't get COVID, which, by the way, I don't need to play the clips for you to see it, where everybody said, hey, if you get it, you're not going to get, if you take the vaccine, you're not going to get a Rachel Maddow, Joe Biden. I can give you Fauci. I can give you, and you've seen these clips before. It's not like you've never seen it before.
Yeah, what happened
were wrong.
Hold on. So, the strain evolved, okay? So that the vaccine that prevented you from catching COVID was tuned to the variant of COVID at the time the vaccine was designed, okay? Over time, there were variants that arose. The vaccine provided partial protection against the new variants, enough to keep you from dying statistically, and to basically keep you out of the hospital, allowing other people with more severe problems to get the hospital attention they required. And so then they would develop a subsequent, the booster and a subsequent mixture of the vaccine. This is what happens every year with a flu shot. They look at how the flu has evolved from one season to the next. And what's fortunate is Australia tends to get the variant of flu before we do, because they get their winter in our summer, and then so we study that, have a forward projection for it. So these annual flu shots are precisely out of the same idea of how this occurs.
How long have those been tested, though? For years. COVID vaccine hasn't been tested for it. It was something we just came out. But let me.
I don't know what point you're making, other than it was tested. You might
9 months is not enough.
You might prefer. No, it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of how many. Yes, time matters, but the number of people is paramount. That's the most important thing, okay? You don't test it on 10 people. You test it on as many people as you can.
Sure.
I think it was thousands, but
is it fair to say that some of the side effects we may not know for 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
So this is where Neil just really starts schooling PBD without even raising his voice. Like, PBD just tries to pull the "we didn't know if it worked" card, or that 67% taking the vaccine somehow proved it was forced. And Neil just calmly pulls out the entire structure of scientific review and public health policy and straight up collective responsibility. It's not about blind trust in one type of scientist. It's about understanding the systems in place, clinical trials, ethics boards, safety monitoring. And let's be real here, PBD trying to compare vaccine mandates to abortion is just lazy. It's one of those sloppy freedom arguments that just ignores transmissibility. Neil shuts it down perfectly though. Abortion impacts a few people, while COVID spreads. The vaccine wasn't a personal preference, it was a public health shield during a global emergency, and PBD just doesn't want to admit that sometimes the collective matters more than your vibe about freedom.
You can't, like, they can't say we know 100% the side effects 10 years from now. How are you going to know that?
Yeah, okay. So, no, of course, we can't know
So
that.
then all I'm saying is...
Watch. We can't know that.
Okay.
But watch. So I have a whole chapter called Risk and Reward in the book, which tries to sensitize people to when they make a decision, what kind of risk are they absorbing relative to what they're rejecting, okay? And we're not very good at that, at probability and statistics or analyzing it. That's why TV commercials trying to sell you a product don't just show you data, they show a person speaking of the effectiveness of the product. A single person. I lost 50 pounds. The testimony of an individual should be irrelevant to you relative to the entire set of people who have done it. And you want to look at those statistics, but we're not good at that. And advertisers know that. So they show the testimony of an individual, which is hugely potent in a civilization where we don't think statistically, we think about eyewitness testimony on something. And somehow that is raised to a very high level of influence on our decisions. What I'm saying is, you're not your decision point is not, I'm not going to take the virus because 5 years, 10 years, I don't know what effect it's going to have.
Some may, though. Some may not be comfortable with
Let me
that.
finish the sentence. Okay, so you can say, I don't want to take the virus because 5 or 10 years from now, there could be a side effect that we don't see.
Which is a possibility.
Hold on. I'm trying to make a statistical point here, okay? If you say, I don't want to take the virus because it hasn't been tested for 5 years and there could be some long-term side effect that worries me, okay? In that same moment, there's the risk factor of you getting COVID.
Sure.
Okay? Unvaccinated. At one point, 87% of everyone dying in the hospital of COVID was unvaccinated. Okay. So your risk choice is, I'm not going to take it because maybe somewhere down the line something will happen and we don't know what that is, or I will risk getting COVID, and if I get COVID, depending on your age and other things, there's a 3% chance of me dying in the hospital. That's your choice. Yes. Yes, but what I see people doing is they focus on one thing, and that's the foundation of their decision, rather than the other chance. And what happens if you get COVID? Now you get long COVID. Now you can have a taste buds for 2 years or whatever it is for long COVID.
Yeah.
You're on a ventilator in the hospital, possibly dying. Like what? Where is the? So I looked every day once a week. I looked at the statistics. How many people are getting COVID? What's the rate? What's the rate of hospitalization? What's the rate of deaths? Where is it by state?
I had to look at it. My board forced me to look. We're in the business, so we have to look at it.
They should,
of course,
because it's data.
Yeah, I agree.
On risk factors,
the risk of people's lives.
Okay,
for
so
sure.
nothing is ever zero risk. Yeah, there's a risk that you'll grow a third arm in 10 years because the virus mutates within you.
Should the individual not have the right to say, I don't want to take it because that's
you don't have the right to contaminate someone else.
And wrapping this up, this is where Neil just completely shuts PBD down. PBD just keeps tossing around fear of long-term side effects, but Neil just flips it. Real risk isn't a maybe 10 years from now. It's people dying today. While PBD clings to buzzwords like freedom, Neil breaks it down. Public health is about protecting others, not just yourself. And when PBD tries one last time to play the personal rights card, Neil just ends it. You don't have the right to contaminate someone else. That kind of bias always hides behind choice until science clears the fog. And speaking of biases, are you getting tired of getting news from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, whether it's left, right, or center, are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get a 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights in media bias and political trends. So stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.